Now we come to the end of Isaiah 16. Zion has rejected the Moabites' appeal to enter their city. Because the Moabites still worship false gods, they must be excluded from New Jerusalem. In verse 9, the voice changes from Zion's people to Jehovah, or in the last days, the voice of Jesus Christ. Because of the Moabites' refusal to be converted and healed by Christ, they'll continue to suffer, and the Lord will weep for them. Let's look at verses 9 through 11, using translations a little easier to understand. So I weep, as the people in Jazer weep, for the vines of Sibmah, meaning for their destroyed vineyards. Heshbon and Elealeh, I drench you with tears. The shouts of joy over your ripened fruit and over your harvests have been stilled. Joy and gladness are removed from the orchard. No one sings or shouts in the vineyards. No one tramples the grapes in the winepresses. I have put an end to the cheering. Therefore, I moan like the sound of a lyre for Moab, as does my innermost being for Kir Heres. So the Lord weeps for Moab's terrible suffering. They could have had a life of abundance in Zion, but sadly, they still remain unconverted. God says, I have put an end to their cheering. Or, in the King James Version, I have made their vintage shouting to cease. God is doing this. God is causing the earthquakes and empowering the Assyrian king and preventing the Moabites from entering Zion. Although he mourns for them in his innermost being, God has caused this to happen. As a result, the survivors of Moab will go up to a high place where they will, quote, worship at their pagan shrines, but it will do them no good. They will cry to the gods in their temples, but no one will be able to save them, end quote. Because they have made their choice to worship their pagan gods, the God of Zion has made his choice to exclude them from his city. Thus, as Isaiah says, they shall go to their sanctuary to pray, but they shall not prevail. Then the Lord adds a conclusion. This is the word that the Lord hath spoken concerning Moab. Within 3 years, as a servant bound by contract would count them, Moab's splendor and all her many people will be despised, and her survivors will be very few and feeble. So, what does all this mean for us in the last days? Within 3 years from the time of God's warning, every minute of which will seem like bondage, Moab will be condemned, and its once great multitude will be depopulated until they shall be very few and feeble. Now, remember, these chapters 15 and 16 are the beginning of Isaiah circling back to give detail to his timeline, and it appears that all of this will happen toward the beginning of that latter-day timeline, which starts in chapter 2. As mentioned before, think of the great promised land of the latter days. Think of America's west coast, especially California. Think of that once great multitude that shall become very few and feeble. When we think of these desperate women at the fords of Arnon, we should remember a once powerful people who couldn't stop worshiping at the altars of Babylon. As the Lord says, surely as I have thought, so shall it come to pass, and as I have purposed, so shall it stand. And I will tell you what I will do to my vineyard. I will take away the hedge thereof, and it shall be eaten up, and break down the wall thereof, and it shall be trodden down, and I will lay it waste. This burden of the house of Israel soon becomes the burden of Moab, a kindred, partially covenant people, whom the Lord loves and weeps over. The great and dreadful day of the Lord will begin well before the Lord comes to earth in his glory. And it will begin among his own people, including the vineyards and orchards and people of Moab. Next time, we'll discuss the burden of Damascus, which will also be a type and shadow of things to come to a kindred, partially covenant people in the last days. I'm Curtis Taylor with the Words of Isaiah.